have done over time, but it's quite unclear. The eyes, of course, are bizarre, these long slits, these stylized eyes. But are they ancient aliens, right, with these conical heads and these cone heads? Well actually, cranial modification is something that is quite common in the ancient world. It's actually common today. There are many cultures that practice it. And really the way that you do it is you get them while they're young. When children are born, their heads, the plates in their heads, as you probably know, aren't fully formed. So what you can do at a young age is start wrapping bands around the head of a child and start elongating the skull. And you can really create this cone head. I kept my mother in labor for 23 hours. And at the end of all of that pushing, I was born by cesarean section, they pulled me out and I had a cone head. My dad says, he just took one look at me, and instead of feeling that overabundant love, it was, oh my God, my child is a cone head. This is crazy. So this happens, and and they actually had to push my head back to, kind of smush it back into place, and this is very common. So these figures are strange, but in a lot of ways they're not that strange. They could be indicative of this kind of practice taking place. This is actually interesting. This is very recent. If you go on Time, their website, this is a cone-headed burial that was just uncovered in Mexico. This is very common, not just in Egypt, but also in Mesoamerica and Inca and Mayan societies too, also in Africa too today. So some things to kind of keep in mind as we go. The last site I want to look at today is also a site from the Ubaid period, and just to again stress how similar sites displaying these traits of characteristics are, and the breadth of space between them. So we were looking at Eridu before, far in the south. Now we're going to go far to the north to the site of Tepe Gawra, where we're actually going to see some very similar things taking place, right? Boom, Tepe Gawra, again, at the end of the Ubaid, 4000 BCE, this is level 13, and we see here, while at the site, there were a number of different structures that may have been religious structures. At this time, level 13, at the end of the Ubaid period, we see the construction of not just one, but 3 temples. And you can see the similarities between, say, this northern temple, right here, reconstructed here, and the temple that we just saw at Eridu. I'll just jump back real quick so you can see it. I should have put them together, right? So there's this one, right? We've got our tripartite, structure, central axis. Oh, I should also mention the main entrance is in the side, so there's a bent axis approach. You would come in from the side and then turn to your left and then face the altar. Right, so we see the same thing taking place at Tepe Gawra. And, right, again, of course, that very characteristic niching taking place on the sides. 3 temples, actually, displaying all of these attributes, possibly indicating that 3 different gods were being worshipped at this site during the Ubaid period. In this northern temple, actually, we find many, many, many ceilings, right? So the clay residue from the actual stamping of seals. So it seems as though these temples actually served an administrative purpose in addition to a religious purpose. And the temple, as we'll see later on, definitely fulfills this role for the redistribution of goods, also for adjudicating different problems in society, right? It's a central base of authority, obviously because a god lives there, and the priesthood that attends to him or her. So anyway, so you can see that it's not just pottery, but architecture, burial, all of these things are coming together that really form these, what we can say are true cultures that are spreading over great distances and enduring for long periods of time. I should also mention too that at the end of this period, Tepe Gawra in level 12, the building goes out of use, and then a round building, a domestic structure, is put right on top of it. And you can see this in the reading in Rove too, but it's been interpreted often as the locals sort of taking back their own culture, that somehow, the construction of this Ubaid-style temple was a form of imperialism, that these southerners were coming to the north and setting up shop, and that now we're going to kick them out and go back to our original sort of way of life. And there might be some truth to that, but again, we're dealing with periods in which we don't have writing, we don't have text to tell us these sorts of things, and what we do have is the archaeological evidence, which in this case is quite a lot, and does give us a sense of the spread of these different cultures. These are some of those Ubaid stamp seals, similar to the Halaf ones, but now depicting animals. So, and there's that later Tepe Gowra structure on top. So just to recap, as we take off, the pre-pottery Neolithic. I'm sorry, this is a mistake. This should say the pottery Neolithic. I just copied the slide from before. The pottery Neolithic, 7,000 to 4,000 BCE. New technologies: double kilns, dome kilns, stone hoes, clay sling bullets, spindle whorls, all new forms of craft production. We've got complex polychrome pottery, which is being traded at Halaf and elsewhere during the Halaf period. Evidence of irrigation from flax seeds and settlements below the dry farming line. Evidence of bureaucracy, now stamps and clay ceilings, showing private ownership and authority, and the emergence of uniform temple architecture with specific traits. And I want you to remember these: a tripartite plan, a bent axis approach, that niched facade, and an offering table and an altar. These are things that set the stage for the Uruk period and many periods to come. We'll be seeing this for thousands of years. So remember them, and I'll see you guys on Friday.